Warning: the following video contains topics that may be traumatizing or sensitive for some viewers. If you think that topics like this could cause harm to you or your well-being, viewer discretion is advised.
D&D, and it's become popular with children anywhere from grammar school on up. Not so with a lot of adults who think it's been connected to a number of suicides and murders.
Shotgun suicide. They were observing Daniel and Stephen Irwin. 16 a reality. Michael suicide. 17 Jakovich. 14 obsessed with the game. Shotgun suicide. Irving Big pulling. 16 suicide. A suicide.
Suicide of a...
Police are blaming D&D.
It's nothing but a witch hunt.
And the list goes on,
This curse he had received is not coincidence, not when you have careful
Those people who are looking desperately for any other cause than perhaps their own failure as a parent.
Dungeons & Dragons, quite literally the tabletop role-playing game of all time. D&D's publisher, Wizards of the Coast, has generated over $1 billion in annual revenue since 2021. This success stems from the game's growing popularity since its introduction in 1974, when Gary Gygax and Dave Amison decided to take their own spin on the wargaming genre. This game is a huge part of both mine and many other people's lives. Creating epic stories, hanging out with your friends, and making extremely powerful characters just really captures people in a way unseen in many other tabletop games. Dungeons & Dragons has even grown to be covered in TV shows, most notably Netflix's Stranger Things, which in its newest season covered some of the controversies surrounding the game, more specifically the Satanic Panic. I, along with many other people, found out about the Satanic Panic through Stranger Things Season 4, where a large part of the plot follows a character by the name of Eddie, who can be seen in this next clip.
Dungeons and Dragons. At first regarded as a harmless game of make-believe, now has both parents and psychologists concerned. Studies have linked violent behavior to the game, saying it promotes satanic worship, ritual sacrifice, sodomy, suicide, and even murder.
Eddie is accused of murdering one of his classmates through a quote-unquote demonic ritual by the town, with the reasoning being that he ran the D&D club at his school. When I first watched this, I had previously heard of the Satanic Panic. However, it never really occurred to me that people could really have been affected to this degree, and it baffled me how any sane person could have realistically thought that the silly little role-playing game with weird-looking dice that I play with my friends would contain actual, real rituals and magic. I mean, that would be really cool, but that's not the point. After this realization, I did some light research to try and figure out if the Satanic Panic was really as bad as it was made out to be in the show, hoping that it was over-dramatized, but what I found was very much the opposite. The Satanic Panic was a moral panic roughly in the 1980s that heavily involved the belief that there was a secret and manipulative cult that worshipped Satan, hence the name Satanic Panic. But where could this belief have even come from? And how was it associated with Dungeons & Dragons? Our story starts with a woman named Patricia Pulling, whose son tragically died by suicide. While looking through her son's stuff, Pulling found many books containing the Dungeons & Dragons material and other characters he had created. Looking through the books, she found many things, such as spells and monsters. This led Pulling to believe that Dungeons & Dragons was directly responsible for her son's death. Instead of looking at other factors, she doubled down on the idea that the game had supernatural and satanic influences and blamed it for the death of her child. Pulling became the founder of a group called Bothered About Dungeons & Dragons, or BAD, original name, I know. Along with the rest of BAD, she published pamphlets, appeared on talk shows, and even claimed that Dungeons & Dragons contained real magic spells and rituals. Her book, The Devil's Web, and other propaganda spread out through the media, gained traction among religious groups and concerned parents. Then real media shows like CBS's 60 Minutes ran over-dramatized segments about the quote-unquote dangers of role-playing games, choosing to highlight the dark drama caused by the panic and what people believed over what anybody who actually played the game even said.
I've never seen dice like these. All different sides. What,
Six-sided.
what's the point in that? What's
They're for different things. The four-sided is used mainly for damage from a dagger and dart, and magic users hit points. Hit points is the damage that you can take before you die.
There are those who are fearful that the game in the hands of vulnerable kids could do harm, and there is evidence that seems to support that view.
It wasn't just crappy TV specials that nobody watched either. Major news outlets, including BBC and the Philadelphia Daily News, published stories warning of the supposed dangers of the game. The Satanic Panic wasn't just a bunch of bad headlines and ridiculous claims. It had real and damaging consequences. Kids were banned from playing the game, churches held burnings of D&D materials, and some players were even accused of being involved in satanic cults. One of the most infamous cases was the disappearance of James Dallas Egbert III, a troubled college student who played D&D. When he went missing, the media, and one particularly opportunistic private investigator, latched on to the idea that his involvement with the game led to his downfall. The truth, his struggles had absolutely nothing to do with Dungeons & Dragons, but the damage was already done. His story fueled the belief that role-playing games were a gateway to self-destruction. This kind of misinformation extended beyond Dungeons & Dragons. The McMartin preschool trial, one of the most expensive and disastrous trials in U.S. history, was fueled by similar satanic panic fears. Accusations of hidden tunnels, ritual abuse, and cult activity turned out to be completely fabricated, but not before ruining many lives. One such person who was falsely convicted of similar claims is a man named Melvin Quinney. Melvin was accused of ritualistic molestation and murder by his ex-wife Deborah along with his 9-year-old son John Parker, and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Melvin Quinney served 8 years of his 20-year sentence before being paroled and forced to register as a sex offender. It was later proven that Melvin's ex-wife, along with therapists, pressured his 9-year-old son, John Parker, to testify that his father molested him and that he had seen his father murder other children. Parker realized after his mother passed in 1999 that something had gone terribly wrong. He recanted his testimony as an adult and worked to clear his father's name. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals found Melvin innocent in February of 2023, and Melvin's name was eventually cleared 32 years after he was wrongly convicted. The Satanic Panic eventually died down, but not before it caused irreparable damage. Many people lost their lives due to suicides, wrongful accusations, and ruined reputations, all fueled by paranoia and misinformation. The turning point came with the polling report by Michael Stackpole, which systematically dismantled the claims made by Bad and others, exposing the lack of evidence behind their accusations. The report highlighted on how these baseless fears were used to justify oppressive actions, proving that moral panics are often weapons against those who are simply different or misunderstood. The report also exposed the fear-mongering tactics and misinformation that had driven the hysteria, marking the beginning of the end for the moral panic. By the 90s and early 2000s, public perception of Dungeons & Dragons shifted from a satanic ritual simulator to that one game that nerds dress up for. However, this shift did not erase the many violations of rights and freedoms from the Satanic Panic. Many individuals were wrongfully accused, imprisoned, or lost their lives due to hysteria-filled investigations with coerced confessions and manipulated testimonies leading to devastating consequences. While we can look back and see how ridiculous it was, the effects of the Satanic Panic are still felt today. Fear, ignorance, and misinformation can do real harm, especially when the media gets involved. So the next time someone tries to tell you that a harmless hobby is corrupting the youth, just remember, we've been here before, and we'll probably be here again.